Christ created good and evil. He made good and he made evil. So before the characteristics, the spiritual characteristics of good and evil, prior, before what existed prior to the spiritual, the mind and soul characteristics of good and evil, before they were created, was only righteousness, which is the righteousness of heaven, which is the righteousness of Elohim, which is the righteousness of Christ. Righteousness is not good or evil. Righteousness is righteousness. It is the universal authority. Righteousness is the universal authority. Christ then created good and evil. Adam and Eve didn't know good or evil. They just knew righteousness. They knew to follow Elohim and to stay close and to stay within the presence of God, to stay within the presence of Christ, to stay within the presence of Yahuwah. That was before bad guy. That was before bad cop, good cop. Righteousness. So they didn't know that they were naked. They looked at sex differently, because prior to that, they looked at sex as not as sex indefinitely, but as a way to simply reproduce. Now, they probably had pleasure in it or whatever the case may be, but they didn't look at it the way we all look at sex today. For instance, when a brother see a fat ass or whatever the case may be, he wants to do certain things to that behind, and that's a malicious, not malicious, but that's a defiled way of thinking, so to say. Now, we don't look at it as defiled, but technically it's a defiled way of thinking, because we're looking at it from the sense of after they were seduced by Satan. Their minds changed, and then they knew what good was and what evil was. The righteousness left them. Righteousness left them. And now they had knowledge of evil. The fact that you have knowledge of sin makes you imperfect. You have us as a people, and I can't just say for the Israelites, because Adam and Eve are the fathers and mothers of the white people, the Arab people, the Chinese people, and Christ, even though he is the God of the Israelites, even though he's the creator, he's the Elohim and the majesty of us black folks, but he also is the creator of all flesh. He created the white man, he created the Arab man, so everybody and anybody can become righteous. It doesn't matter who you are. You can become righteous through Christ, which is through your belief and your love and your trust in Revelations 1:15. The image, well, we don't know if it's truly the image, but we know us today have never physically saw him, but it describes him. You have to love the truth. You have to accept the truth, and you have to understand the truth. And many people out there are adding and taking away from the word of Christ. And that's destruction for you all. You're all going to die. A storm, though, y'all? Really? All that means is I just can't get fly. I got to stay in what I got on. Because watch it rain all night. So, let's wrap this up, shall we? So, he first lied to her, told her you won't surely die. Then he told her the truth, because you will be like Elohim, knowing good and evil. So he took a lie and then he corroborated the lie with the truth, which deceived Eve. Okay, so for many of you women out there, you think you don't need a man. Satan will always be able to trick you. If you don't have a man physically, then you are supposed to have Revelations 1:15. A woman without a physical head or without a spiritual head of Revelations 1:15 is a very foolish woman, and you will be destroyed. There will come a time when many of you will say, I want only your last name. I'm not worried about being taken care of, getting clothes, being sheltered, none of that stuff. I just want to have your last name so I don't get thrown in hellfire. There will a time come, especially us black youth, especially us Negroes, as a nation. You have to understand these things. And you black women, what you got to understand is that the other nations, the Caucasian woman, now she's becoming more foolish. All the nations are becoming more foolish because Satan is growing stronger and wickedness is growing abound. That's the reason why you have a lot of the Arab women now and a lot of Chinese women, they're getting out of order. These younger ones that are in college are growing up, not the older ones now, because the older ones, they understand. But these modern Arab women and these modern Chinese women, they're losing the touch of the family order and losing touch of the family structure. But nobody has lost touch of the family structure like you black folks, you black women, and you black men that choose not to go to your home and throw your foot on the floor. Now, is your wife a child? Hell no. She's a grown-ass woman. And she deserves respect like a grown-ass woman. But at the end of the day, there still is a chain of command. And it's a chain of command for a reason. For a purpose. So that we can be a wise people. Not so you can walk around and say, I'm the runner, I run my house, and what you gonna do about it? And no, that's a coward. That's coward mentality. But you have to understand that, especially if you're a man that follows Christ. If you're a man that follows Christ, you are definitely supposed to impose that on your household. They may give you a hard way to go. They may fight. They may throw tooth and nail. But you are not to quit. You are to do it at the risk of losing your wife. I don't talk Big Willie. Me and my wife been together now for almost 18 years. At any given day, we can go our separate ways, and many of you would love that, right? There are many of you all out there that probably love to see that, and not just me. You would love to see many of you haters and wicked people. You want to see other marriages destroyed and other relationships destroyed, right? All you have to do is follow the word of Elohim. Now, that's at the end of the day. Whether you're married, not married, courting, not courting, whatever. Now, I want to finish it off with this. Revelations 22, 13, 16, 18, and 19. Now, some of you in the circumcision, why you skipped 17? No particular reason. If you want to read 17, go read 17. But I skipped it. Why? Because I wanted to. That's why. Oh, that's taken away. No, it's not. It's not taken away from the word. I don't feel like reading verse 17. I don't want to read it. I don't feel like reading. No, it doesn't hurt me. No, I ain't got nothing against it. There's no particular reason but for the fact that it doesn't narrate the point that I'm trying to make. So I skipped it. If you want to know what verse 17 is, go look it up yourself, read it all together to yourself. I chose to skip it because I wanted to. No particular reason. I have nothing against verse 17, but I skipped it because I wanted to skip it. Because these verses, this is Revelations chapter 22, 13, hell, I skipped 14 and 15 too. This is Revelations chapters 22, I'm reading verses 13, 16, 18, and 19. Those are the verses I want to read. Those are the verses that are for the narration that I want to get across. Now I want you to pay attention. This is Revelations chapter 22, 13, 16, 18, and 19. And 13 says, I am the Alpha and the Omega. Meaning he is the Aleph and the Tav, the first and the last. He is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. He's the beginning and the end. Who? God, right? The Father, right? The Creator, right? Well, I want you to continue to listen here, right? because I want you to pay close attention. Now, it says here, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. The beginning and the end. The 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. No, there's no real begin. There's no point of beginning, and there will never be an end. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. There was nobody before me, and there will never, ever be anybody after me. Blessed are those who do his commandments. They that may have the right, this is verse 14, that they may have the right to the tree of life and may enter through the gates into the city. Do the commandments by staying in union with Yahushua HaMashiach, so that you may have the rights to the gates of the kingdom. So that you may have the right, I gotta stop keeping that light on like that, so that you may have the rights to the gates of the kingdom. And it says, verse 15 says, but outside are dogs and sorcerers and sexually immoral and murderers and idolaters and whoever loves to practice a lie. You didn't get that, did you? That went over many. There's two things. Y'all know when I do this, you know what that means, right? That means bring an ear. So when I do this, I want you to concentrate very hard on what I'm about to say, because I don't want you all to miss this. I'm going to make two very big points. 2 points that went over your head. Now, let me read that again so you can get it. Blessed are those who do his commandments, that they may have the right to the tree of life and may enter through the gates in the city. Who will enter? He's talking to black people right here. He's not talking to all nations right here. Now, yes, there are some Caucasians, some Arabs, some Chinese people, Japanese people, Turkish people, whatever the case, that will not be destroyed. Those of you who love Revelations 1:15, you will be captive in many cases, and you will be less than Israelites, because the kingdom is not for you. If you are Caucasian and you're an Arab and you are a Chinese person, anything of that nature, you will not be allowed to enter the gates of the kingdom to dwell in. There are 12 gates for 12,000 black people, which, damn, yo, this is crazy, okay? There are a lot of black people who are there are a lot of, you know what, let me not even get into that right now. I just want you all to think. Let me go ahead and keep talking. 144,000. 144,000. That's not even 1/4 of a million. 144,000 people are going to be allowed to walk through the 12 gates of the kingdom. From each tribe, all of these people are going to be black people. Now, there's also a main entrance, or another gate. There's another entrance, okay? An entrance where white folks, Arab folks, Caucasian folks, I'm sorry, white folks, Caucasian, Arab, Chinese, etc. Those of you who are spared and not destroyed, those of you who loved Revelations 1:15 and loved the law, statutes, and commandments, and did not despise the black people of Christ, those of you will be able to walk in from the court, walk from the outer courts into the entrance of the kingdom to go and drink from the fountain of life. You have to drink from that fountain of life in order to continue to live. You will not be naturally immortal. The Israelites will be naturally immortal, but those of you of the other nations, you have to drink from the fountain of life in order to live forever. And at any point in time, you decide that you want to go against the laws and regulations of the kingdom, you will be stricken from the fountain of life. The tree of life are for the Israelites. So there's two very powerful points I want to make here. So those of you from the other nations, you cannot dwell in the kingdom. To dwell in the kingdom, you must be an Israelite to dwell in the kingdom. You Caucasians and you Arabs, and now I don't hate you all. Some of you are really good people. And for those of you who are wise enough, at least I'm not telling you that all of you are going to be destroyed like some false prophets, because all of you are not going to be destroyed, but a vast amount of you are going to be destroyed. So I'm telling you now that if you are a Caucasian, an Arab, a Chinese person, or a Japanese person, or a full-blown Hamite, do understand these things, that there is a afterlife for you. Okay, and there is an afterlife for you who are true believers, for you who are truly in union with Yahushua HaMashiach. There is an afterlife for you. Okay, there is something good for you. Okay, you will not be able to dwell in the kingdom like the black folks, like the true Israelites, like the 144,000. And then there's going to be an ingathering and all that. But I want you all, for you Negroes, I want you all to understand something, because I think many of you have lost the case. Many of you that are in the circumcision, you believe that just because you're an Israelite, you're going to the kingdom. So many of you are so wicked and evil and jealous and sneaky and conniving. And many of you are deceiving yourselves, and many of you, those who are in the circumcision. I'm not even talking about those of you who are in religion. We already know what's going to happen to them if they don't turn the cheek. But those of you who are in the circumcision are going to die to death if you don't repent from your evil. Now, so we know that the other nations are going to be in the outer courts. They will be able to walk from the outer courts back and to and fro to drink from the fountain in life. Now, that you understand that, I want you to read. So it's going to say, blessed are those who do this. Blessed are those who do his commandments. Blessed are those who do his commandments, that they may have the right to the tree of life, and may enter through the gates into the city. And outside are the dogs and sorcerers and sexually immoral and murderers and idolaters, and whoever loves and practices a lie. So outside of the kingdom, in the outer courts, are going to be those of the other nations. This is referring to those who are going to be bondmen and women, slaves to the nation of Israel, because you bowed down to Yahushua HaMashiach when given the opportunity to, right before you were thrown in the fire. But many of you black people who are not in union with Yahushua HaMashiach, many of you are going to be in the same situation as some of those people of the other nations. And then it's going to say here, Yahushua have sent my angel to testify. But wait a minute. I want you all to listen to something, right? So it says here that Yahushua, so Christ sent an angel. What angel did Christ send? He sent the angel that gave John the Baptist the revelation on the island of Patmos. Now, let's go to the first chapter of Revelations. I want to show y'all something. Revelations chapter 1, verse 1. The revelation of Yahushua HaMashiach, which Elohim gave to him to show his servants things which must shortly take place, and he sent and signified it by his angel to his servant John. The revelation of Yahushua HaMashiach, which Elohim gave to him to show his servants things which must shortly take place, and he sent and signified it by his angel to his servant John the Baptist, who bore witness to the word of Elohim and to the testimony of Yahushua HaMashiach, to all things that he saw. John, the seven churches, which is Asia, seven spirits, and before his throne, and from Yahushua HaMashiach, the faithful witness, firstborn from the dead, and the ruler over the kings of the earth, to him who loved us and washed us from our sins in his own blood. Christ is the one that's speaking. Listen very carefully to what I'm about to say to y'all. Christ is the one that's given John the revelation. It says here, I'm going to go to verse 11 in a minute. It says here, the revelation of Yahushua HaMashiach, which Elohim, or so-called God, see, that's the reason why the word Elohim should be there. Because the word God is a very tricky word, and it's a very deceiving word. First of all, God is Satan, but not only that, God doesn't have the meaning that Elohim means. Now, I've already explained Elohim, but I want you all to pay attention to something very important. The revelation of Yahushua HaMashiach, which Elohim gave to him, Christ gave the revelation to himself, because Elohim is the spirit of Christ. Elohim is the spirit. Elohim is the creator. That creator is the spirit of Yahushua HaMashiach. It's the spirit of Yahushua HaMashiach. Now, you all don't believe me. So watch how tricky it gets, but I want to explain something to you. Which Elohim gave to his servants. Okay, so it says here, the revelations of Yahushua HaMashiach, which Elohim gave to him to show his servants. So Elohim gave the Spirit to Christ to show his servants things which must shortly take place. And so Christ sent and signified it by his angel to his servants. See, it's the same thing that happened on the Mount of, now, those of you, only the circumcision is going to follow me with this. What happened here was the same thing that happened on Mount Sinai, when Christ passed the instructions, passed the 10 Commandments to an angel, right, that gave to Moses. But that angel was Christ. See, you don't believe me and you don't get it, right? Well, listen very carefully because it's about to make a little bit more sense. Let's go down to verse 11. Let's start at verse 10. Now, John the Baptist is going to say, I was in the Spirit on Yahuwah's day, which is the Sabbath day. I was in the Spirit on Yahuwah's day, and I heard behind me a loud voice as of a trumpet, saying, pay attention, because this is Christ that's going to speak to John the Baptist. Christ sent himself to speak to John the Baptist. The first verse said that so quote unquote God gave the revelation to Christ. That's because it's Christ's revelation. Christ is God. And then Christ says he sent an angel, but right here it's actually Christ that's talking to John the Baptist. Just like in the scriptures when Christ says that the Father sent me, or from he who sent me, Christ is referring to himself from the future, back to the future. Christ traveled back to the future. He went back in time. He walked in the flesh as a man. And then, I know, nothing to see here, nothing to hear here. Carry on. Nothing to see here, nothing to hear here. That's bullshit. Let me finish talking. It says here, this is Christ. John the Baptist, he heard a voice behind him. And the voice said, Christ told John the Baptist, listen to what Christ said. This is Revelations, the first chapter, verse 11. Revelations, the first chapter, verse 11. Let me see how many of you Hebrew Israelite Old Testament dummies, let me see how many of you can get past this. Christ said to John the Baptist, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last. And what you see, write in a book and send it to the 7 churches. Send it to the 7 churches, which are in Asia, to Ephesus and Smyrna. So send it to the churches. Now, let me use common sense to